man we can influence man, but man we cannot influence nature. So the biggest challenge is weather.
Okay. Global
and the
warming.
biggest challenge is global warming, and the biggest challenge is what we can't control. But to me, the question is, how does the CEO spend his time, his or her time? If the CEO spends all his time on operations and today, you're not going to have, long-term
Okay.
purpose. If you spend all your time, visionary, dreaming, innovation, you're not going to achieve your results. You need to focus on the next 3 months, and you need to plan for the next 10 years.
The Secret Sauce
สวัสดีครับผมเคนนักครินทร์และนี่คือ The Secret Sauce
What's your secret?
The Secret Sauce ตอนนี้ได้รับการสนับสนุนโดยไทยวาวันนี้พาทุกท่านมาทำความรู้จักและเรียนรู้กับธุรกิจที่เกี่ยวข้องกับการเกษตรและอาหารครับผมเชื่อว่าถ้าเกิดพูดชื่อบริษัทมาหลายคนอาจจะยังไม่ค่อยคุ้นครับนั่นก็คือบริษัทไทยวาจำกัดมหาชนแต่เขาอยู่ในประเทศไทยมา75 ปีแล้วนะครับแต่ถ้าพูดถึงโปรดักต์ทุกคนร้องอ๋อแน่นอนครับวุ้นเส้นครับตรามังกรคู่หรือว่ากิเลนคู่และอีกหลากหลายแบรนด์นะครับธุรกิจนี้เป็นธุรกิจที่ทำเรื่องเกี่ยวกับเกษตรแล้วก็แปลงนะครับมาเป็นเรื่องของธุรกิจที่เกี่ยวข้องกับอาหารโดยเฉพาะเรื่องมันสำปะหลังครับปัจจุบันมี3 business unit ด้วยกันนะครับอันแรกครับทำเรื่องเกี่ยวกับ customer โดยตรงเลยก็คือวุ้นเส้นนั่นเองนะฮะอันที่2ครับทำเรื่องเกี่ยวกับแป้งมันสำปะหลังเป็น B2B ส่งต่อไปทำกลูโคสไซรัปไปทำวัตถุดิบต่างๆนะครับอันที่3ล่าสุดเลยครับเขาทำธุรกิจที่เกี่ยวข้องกับไบโอพลาสติกนะฮะซึ่งเป็นธุรกิจที่สอดคล้องกับเรื่องของความยั่งยืนวันนี้สิ่งที่น่าสนใจก็คือบุคคลที่เราจะได้พูดคุยครับเป็น CEO หนุ่มมากๆครับคุณโฮเรนหัวนะครับน่าสนใจเพราะว่าเขารับหน้าที่เป็น CEO ในบริษัทนี้ตอนอายุประมาณ30ต้นๆเท่านั้นเองแล้วก็ transform บริษัทเปลี่ยนแปลงหลายๆอย่างให้กลายเป็นบริษัทที่ทันสมัยมากขึ้นเพราะว่าอย่าลืมว่าอายุ75 ปีจะทำยังไงให้ยังเด็กอยู่และมีนวัตกรรมใหม่ๆรวมทั้งสอดคล้องกับความยั่งยืนที่กลายเป็นเทรนด์ใหญ่และเทรนด์ใหม่ของโลกมากๆที่สำคัญครับคุณเรนนะผมเรียกว่ามิสเตอร์เรนเนี่ยนะฮะเป็นคนที่แอคทีฟมากๆ passionate มากๆเขาไม่ได้พูดแค่ตัวธุรกิจอย่างเดียวแต่ยังพูดถึงความเป็น leadership ยังพูดถึงเรื่องของ culture ตลอด1ชั่วโมงที่พูดคุยกันเขาจะเน้นเรื่องคนมากๆรวมทั้งวิธีการบริหารในลักษณะคนที่เป็นผู้ประกอบการจริงๆเป็น entrepreneurship จริงๆเป็นเจ้าของกิจการเนี่ยมุมมองในการคิดในการบริหารงานของเขาเนี่ยน่าสนใจมากๆลองไปทำความรู้จักกันมากขึ้นครับผมเชื่อว่าตอนนี้จะเป็นประโยชน์กับผู้ประกอบการทุกท่านที่กำลังอยากทำเรื่อง innovation อยากทำเรื่อง sustainability และต้องการ leadership ในการ drive องค์กรไปสู่โลกอนาคตที่มีความผันผวนและซับซ้อนมากขึ้นครับ Thank you for joining us and it's a great honor to have you here so I think our customer our audience is familiar with your product more visually like วุ้นเส้น double dragon มังกรคู่ double กิเลนคู่ but if we talk about your company I think probably our audience is unfamiliar with your company so can you introduce yourself what does Taiwa do
Okay. Well, thank you, Kun Ken, and great to be here and with the Standard. Taiwan was started about 75 years ago by my grandparents, so we're really a multi-generational company, both in Thailand and Southeast Asia. The company's portfolio today, we've got 3 different products. So first, we're focused on B2C, as you mentioned, for the noodles and the food products. Mongkon, Kilin, one of the largest noodle companies across Southeast Asia, and really serving our customers and consumers more than 25,000 tons of food products across different markets, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. So that's our consumer food business. The second business we have now is actually that people know less of, but it's a very big, important business, is our B2B business, our B2B tapioca starch business. We're one of the largest exporters of tapioca starch, tapioca food ingredients that goes into finished products, for example, into bakery, into noodles, into flours, into consumer staples. And we do over 500,000 tons of export all over the world. And it's a very important product because tapioca, แป้งมันสำปะหลัง is one of the key products in Thailand and key agriculture products. So Taiwan, our role is to process, develop, and distribute new types of tapioca-based products, very much to a global market. And then the third pillar for Taiwan in terms of our agri-food would be around bioplastics. So we just started a new business in bioplastics where we're actually looking to use our raw material and our feedstock in tapioca starch and actually convert that into new areas such as sustainable packaging, such as biopackaging, part of the overall biocircular economy to see how we can actually create more value from farm to shelf. Today, Taiwan, we are a medium-sized company. This year we're at about 10 billion baht in sales, almost about 1 billion baht in EBITDA profit. We are in 15 locations across Asia Pacific, so Thailand, Vietnam, China, Cambodia, Indonesia. So the way we think ourselves is very much as a Southeast Asia agri-food company, and particularly during COVID, as you can imagine, is the food security and demand for food products and agriculture products is more important than ever.
Right. Thank you. 3 pillars: food, starch, and plastic. Right. When did you join as a CEO here? I heard that about 7 years ago. As a very young CEO.
Yeah. Still young.
How was it?
Ken, the 7 years feels like 7 months. Yesterday I was, with the team at a Slingshot, a leadership summit, and the journey of a CEO is one that goes through, different phases. 7 years ago, I think I was probably one of the youngest CEOs for a Thai stock exchange, right? Back then I was about 32, so I was very young. And the phase 1 of my journey as a CEO was really just learning the basics, right? So, helping to set the strategy, helping to align the team, and helping to reset the agenda for the new Taiwan.
Taiwan.
That was back in 2015 and 2016. So that was kind of like phase 1. Phase 2 of the company's journey, I think, was mainly from maybe 2017 to about 2019. So we were expanding. So we grew our business in China. We grew our business in Vietnam. We grew our business in Indonesia. But more importantly, we hired and engaged a new team, a new generation team that is younger, that is very diverse. We've got very strong female leadership in Taiwan. That's very multinational. So of all my direct reports, we got 4 different nationalities. So Thais, Chinese, Vietnamese, Indonesian. So really to reset the team and really to build a new generation team from 2017 to 2019. And then the third phase of my journey is COVID. So, now we look back, the 2.5 years for everyone has been challenging and exhausting. But, I always say, to be a COVID CEO is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, right? It's like, when else are you going to have the experience of managing change, managing uncertainty, managing challenge, shut down, work from home, shut down. So the last 2.5 years has been, an incredible challenge as a CEO for the team. But what motivates me is the team. Right? I think as a CEO, you have to continuously evolve. And as you mentioned, particularly as a young CEO, a younger CEO have to continuously adapt ourselves because everything is changing so fast. So how we think about our leadership style, how do we think about our business transformation, how do we think about new gen? As a young CEO, I have to push myself even more to adjust and keep on adapting myself to keep up with the current trends.
Right. You mentioned about business transformation. Can you explain more about this to our audience? What kind of transformation in terms of business model or process people? What kind of transformation in Taiwan?
The first part of our business transformation is about 3-4 years ago is Taiwan going regional and going global. So when I started, we had 7 locations in 2 countries, Thailand and Vietnam. Now we have 15 locations in 5 countries. So that's the first transformation and building a lot of the local talent. So we built a team in Shanghai, we built a team in Cambodia, we built a team in Vietnam. So really transforming both the culture and the process from just being a Thai company to one which is much more regional with local talent, local process, and very importantly, winning the local customer. So that's the first part, I think, in terms of transformation from 5 locations to, let's say, 15. The second big transformation, Ken, I think particularly over the last 3 years and during COVID, is really putting sustainability at the core of our strategy. 3 days ago, I was at the UN Global Compact with Kun Supachai from CP and PM Kun Prayut. And really, I think, not just Thailand, but the whole of Asia Pacific, we're really embracing what it means to put sustainability at the core of our strategy. In Taiwan, because we're an agriculture company, our mission is to really grow from value from farm to shelf. So when we look at the pillars of Taiwan, farm, tapioca products, factory, operations, family, how we think about serving Thai consumers, our and finally food products. The way we think about sustainability and organizing our sustainability teams and sustainability actions is very much linked to our overall strategy. And that's been a very big transformation because everything we do right now, there's a broader perspective about stakeholders. How do we think about farmers? How do we think about customers? And as with now any other company, putting the ESG element
Right.
and actually developing the company strategy.
Okay. So we will talk about sustainability later. So let's talk about business strategy. So I think doing agriculture and food business is quite hard. You have to engage several stakeholders, and the whole supply chain and value chain is very long. So how do you handle with it? How do you manage it, and how to compete with other business, other competitors?
In agriculture, there's no shortcut.
Right.
ต้องทำจริงๆ ต้องทำจริงๆ I think the first is the mindset and the belief. Truly, in agriculture, there's no shortcut. Agriculture is a work of love, is work to the earth, is work to the farmer. So the first point, I think the mindset is, every day we just got to, be out there, working with the farmers and working with the stakeholders. What we've done over the probably last 3 years is to build a very strong farm team and an agronomy team that works very closely with the farmers on a daily basis.
Okay.
So it's not just sitting in Bangkok or sitting as organizing. It's with over 22, 23 people across Thailand, Vietnam, working with the farmers, on a daily basis.
So
that's the
you
real.
also have to visit.
Yeah,
the farm.
we have to visit the farmers, we have to work with them. So that's the first point, to keep the connectivity very close, to make sure that we are very close to the farmers and close to a lot of the levels of how we interact, how we engage, how we create the loyalty between the farmers and the factories. The second part of agriculture is that we then need to think of how we innovate, right? And how do we innovate with purpose and also something that's different. One of the things we did is to do digital payments for the farmers, and actually in the past it take a few minutes, but now it takes like 30 seconds just to swipe. When they come to the factory, they swipe in and they swipe out. Another example is we started to do basic greenhouses. So in the past, they would leave all their stems and their seeds all over the place, all over the farm, all over the factory. But we started to consolidate, and we built more than 10 greenhouses across Thailand, where the farmers, they can store like the stem and the seedling, and they can multiply.
Okay.
So there are many. I think agriculture innovation is very practical. It's hard work, it's determination, and the way we approach in Taiwan, we just keep doing it. Right? Every day we just keep building it. One day at a time. And once we do it over 3 months, 3 years, 5 years, then you continue to see the transformation. And most importantly, I think is the mindset for agriculture is really daily commitment and a daily communication. And we just add different types of innovation and different types of project over a long period of time.
Right. How tough is it? What are the biggest challenges working with, a farmer and all of the stakeholders?
The biggest challenge is not the farmer or the stakeholders, because I always tell my team, I joke, I said, man, we can influence man, but man, we cannot influence nature. So the biggest challenge is weather.
Okay. Global
And the
warming.
biggest challenge is global warming, and the biggest challenge is what we can't control. What we can control is our team, our effort, our commitment, working with the farmers, educating them. We can control. But you can't control, Korat is hit by floods for 5 days. I think in agriculture, the common challenge that all of us face is, we can't control nature, we can't control climate. But what we can do is we can improve a lot of things on the ground, on practices. So I think so long as we strengthen a lot of the business model, a lot of the farmer at the farm level, at the factory level, then at least we can be a lot more resilient in time to come. I think in Thailand, another challenge over the next maybe 10 years will be the multi-generational change. Right? So a lot more young, they want to move towards smart farming. So we have to think about how we can be more protective or productive, for the farmers. In the past, the farmers, the average age would be like 55, 60 plus. But now, we need to encourage a new generation of smart farmers that are willing, to embrace time. Different technologies, digital, harvesting, different methods. So that I think is a challenge, not just for Taiwan, but for the whole Thailand or Southeast Asia industry over the next 10 years, when we have a generational change between some of the older farmers and the next gen.
Right. So in terms of the competition, What makes Taiwan stand out from others?
First of all, I think our business model is different. So most of our competitors in Thailand and Vietnam, they're very much domestic and regional. So they are like kind of like inside out, right? So
Okay.
they focus on Thailand and then they export.
Okay.
I think Taiwan's DNA today, we're much more outside in.
Okay.
So our strategy in terms of our sales and marketing, our distribution, we have spend a lot of time in Indonesia, in Vietnam, in China. We got the sales office. We're building the brand, building our presence. So we're very much outside in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the business model for Taiwan is very different in terms of the not just an export strategy, but much more have the regional offices and then looking inside to Taiwan. The second thing is, I think with any company, a machine's a machine, factory is a factory.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, companies, especially after COVID, they have to compete on their culture and their people. I'm very proud of our culture. We just celebrated our 75th anniversary. Very proud of our team. We have a very young and dynamic and diverse team. We have very strong female leadership in Taiwan. So I think 60% of our top 20 across Taiwan are female. More than 50% of our top 100 are female. So, when you think about gender diversity, when you think about generational diversity, you can't compete on a machine, you can't compete on a factory, but you can compete on culture. So that's what we're trying to do, and to really build a culture that makes us different from any other food company or competitor company. We're very lucky that after COVID, now it's post-pandemic, we managed to keep most of the team intact. Now we're all entering the post-pandemic era after COVID. And it's a different challenge for CEOs, right? You need to retain your talent. You need to maintain your speed. You need to continue digital collaboration, right? So what they think post-COVID or post-pandemic, I think the role of the CEO also changes quite a lot.
Right. You talk about innovation, culture, sustainability, a lot of challenges. So I want to talk about innovation first, because it has been around here, maybe 10 years. Every try to innovate themselves. So what kind of innovation that you try to achieve, and how tough is it?
One of the key milestones for us as a company was when we launched, I would say, 2 new businesses last year. So we launched a new business for Taiwan, new platform. The first is we innovated a new platform innovation called our Roseco, which is Taiwan bioplastics.
Okay.
So we managed to actually use our raw material, tapioca, and then we process it into a new bioplastic for packaging.
Okay.
So for different types of film, for biopackaging, sustainable packaging, it actually comes from plant-based.
Okay.
So it's like plant-based packaging that comes from tapioca.
Is it hard to, it's not your core business, right? You do agriculture for food industry, and then you move to the other business.
Yeah.
Is it hard? Do you have to build a new, plantation or new supply chain?
Yeah. Part of it, so it's linked to Taiwan's core business because we still use the tapioca as the raw material and as a feedstock. But we took at least about 2 years of R&D to do the R&D, the technology, to build a new team. So I think whenever you bring in a new technology or you bring a new team, you need at least time to do that. So that took at least 2 years for us to prepare during COVID from 2020 to 2022. And then we successfully launched the new business.
Why do you choose this business?
If you look at some of the biggest issues today around plastics waste and biopackaging, sustainable packaging, less than 1% of the total world today, they use bioplastics.
Okay.
So of all the millions of couple 100 million tons of plastics waste, less than 1 to 2% is bioplastics. So we've just started the long-term wave. Over the next 10 to 20 years, I think the general move to recycling, to composting, to bioplastics is definitely a long-term trend over the next 10 to 20 years. And we wanted to at least develop a new business that will be part of a long-term mega trend.
Okay.
So that's the first example of a new business that we launched. The second one we launched also about 1 year ago is called Taiwan Ventures. So Taiwan will directly invest with startups.
Okay.
And we become a partner with them to help them grow their businesses and become like a strategic partner to help them grow. So it could be in sales, it could be in R&D, it could be in operations, it could be supply chain, but we create a synergy with these startups. So far we've done 3 investments. So we invested once in the US, one more time also in Australia, and another one in Indonesia as
What
well.
about Thailand?
Thailand, we're still looking. We have a few partners and a few startups, but overall, the whole ecosystem, right? The idea is to really strengthen the ecosystem for Taiwan to, work with, VCs and also startups around the region to help them scale over time.
Okay, what is the reason behind this venture? What are you trying to achieve?
There's a lot of innovation for a company that exists inside the company that we're trying to develop. And there's a lot of innovation that also exists outside the company that other smaller, faster, better companies are having. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve is to build an ecosystem where we're not just looking at just Taiwan innovation, but we understand what's happening outside Taiwan.
Okay.
And that's extremely important because sometimes what's happening outside is equally important as what's happening inside. Now that after COVID, I try to spend half my time at least traveling, to different areas to understand what's happening outside in terms of new trends, new customer needs. Because at the end of the day, Khun Ken, our job is to connect farm to shelf. Right?
Okay.
We have to help the farmers to produce, and we have to understand what the customer needs are. And customer needs, they're changing, right? Customer needs in the US, in Singapore, in China, in Australia, they're changing a lot. So I think the whole idea about ventures is on one hand to invest in these startups and to grow them. But the deeper point is also around ecosystem and the understanding that a lot of the innovation is outside our company and outside our office.
Okay, good
How do
point.
we work with them? How do we partner them? How do we develop new solutions? And that's an ongoing journey.
When we talk about innovation, someone would think about startup, new age company, a younger generation, but this is Taiwan, 75 years old. So how to innovate, how to transform your company from 75 years to a new age?
I tell myself and I tell my team, we are a young company with an old history. I think the history of the company is a strength. I think that the history of the company with 75 years, we have a lot of people who have been at Taiwan 15, 20, 30 years. But we also have a lot of new gen who've been at Taiwan 1 year, 2 years, 4 years. When I first joined for my leadership team, the average age was 55.
55.
Today, my leadership team, the average age is about 43 to 44.
Okay.
So, culture change starts with people, right? And I think, again, in Taiwan, one of our strengths is that we have people in Taiwan for just 2 years, but we have people in Taiwan who've been here for 30 years. So once you bring together different generations, they've got different contributions and different value add.
Yeah.
Right? Some of my closest colleagues who've been here for 30 years, they're still very open-minded. They're still very dynamic. So age is not a limiting factor. Right? And I truly, truly believe we are a young company with old history, and we need to bring together the different generations to change. So it's not about age. It's more about, are we open-minded as a company? Do we embrace new ideas? Are we curious to think about the future? So that's been part of the journey to help to reshape the culture, to be more innovative. And a lot of it starts with leadership. So, every company has to go through, I would say, a renewal and a transformation every period of time. For me, I started as a young CEO. I hope I don't have to be CEO forever. So I openly say, when I'm 50, hopefully there'll be a 40-year-old CEO who's better than me. And that's the way you continually grow the company, right? Because for a company to stay young and stay fresh, you have to keep, evolving the culture and the energy of the company.
I have talked to a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses about creating innovation, driving innovation. And I think it's quite hard. It's very hard to keep innovate continually. So do you have any suggestions? How can we innovate ourselves as a whole company?
First of all, the most important thing in any setting, whether the company is big, small, medium, is you need to try, right? So our new businesses, they're doing well, they're launched in. Another example, is, we just launched Taiwan, Wunsen, Mongkon and Kidin. We launched it in 7-Eleven over the last 1 year. and it's the fastest selling SKU for instant wunsen across Thailand. So we got the boat noodle, we got the tom yum noodle, we got the yen tafo noodle. It's the fastest selling. A few million, every month. Very successful. But we also did this, 3-4 years ago. Another product, it didn't work because we changed the packaging, we changed the taste. So today, the innovation we launched is extremely successful. It's the fastest selling in Thailand. You can see it almost every 7. But 3-4 years ago, we launched another version, different packaging, different taste. It didn't work, and then we continue to modify. I don't think there's any shortcut to innovation. I think innovation is a lot of continuous effort, continuous trial and error, continuous experiment. So, some things they really succeed, some things they don't succeed that fast. So what is most important to us at Taiwan is we constantly have a pipeline of new products and platforms that we just keep going. Every month we have an innovation committee.
Every month?
Every month. We've been doing it for, I think, 5-6 years in a row. Every month.
Okay.
Well, basically 6
So
years
you
in a row.
have innovation committee.
Since I started as CEO, we've had an innovation monthly meeting every month for 6 years.
So you build up this
So
committee.
you just have to be committed to say, let's try.
Okay.
If it works, great, it continues. If it doesn't work, we try again.
Okay.
So there's no shortcut. I think Taiwan, we're very proud of the team. We've had a lot of great success. We've had not so success, but we just have to continue. We have to continue. So I think we are still only in, we still continue our transformation. But simple things like that, every month, we have an innovation committee meeting called GPD. We go through our different projects.
Okay.
And the discipline is very important to let it go. What we're trying to do this year is that I think we are trying to empower a lot more of our younger generation leaders to innovate better. So once you empower the team to do a lot more, they will also create their new ideas, they'll create their new recipes, the new solutions. So innovation, there's really no shortcut. It's just continuous effort. It's empowering a lot of the younger generation. And for the leader, my job is just to set the tone. Right?
Set the tone.
To allow people to just keep trying, keep going, keep trying. There's no one thing that they will success overnight. Right? You need to try different things. And then once things succeed, and then you focus on a few things.
Okay. What about the investment? Because as you mentioned earlier, sometimes it's fail, right? And you can lose the money. So how do you handle with this? Managing budget to keep it into the right direction.
So risk is something that I think the CEO with the team, CEO, CFO, we have to understand risk.
Okay.
Nothing comes without risk.
Okay.
Right? But risk also has different layers, right? So, investing 1 million baht versus 5 million baht versus 100 million baht, is a big thing. For me personally, when it comes to very big decisions, like a few 100 million baht, I get very involved. So we had a very successful investment, I think about 3 years ago. We acquired a factory in Mae Sot province to do tapioca. So I was very involved, but that was a few 100 million baht because it's a very big risk. So I think the balance for a CEO to understand investments is to look at the level of risk. If it's a few 100 million baht, I have to be involved by myself. I'll be very hands-on, work with the team, understand the whole operations. But if it's a small investment like a new product, 1 million baht, a few million baht, the team have to try. So I think my approach to investments, and I think a practical approach to investments is to know what's the level of risk.
Okay.
If it's hundreds of millions of baht, that's a very big project, right? You need to be very involved, myself, the board, the team. But if it's a new project, a new product, a new SKU, a few million baht, let the team try. And what I'm really motivated is our team has a lot of ownership now, right? So most of today in Taiwan, most of the creative projects in Taiwan are not led by me. The team is at least about 10, 15, 20 things that we are doing well as a company. We have the monthly forum to monitor our support there. And if the team starts it, then it's very important. So the role of the CEO is a balance, right? You got to be involved in the big projects, like I mentioned, like a few hundreds of million baht. But you also have the balance where you can create a culture where people feel ownership to launch a new product or to launch a new service or to launch a new platform.
Okay, so let's move to another topic, but I think it's similar to about innovation because you have to invest in sustainability. I think for me, sustainability is about investing. of course, because you have to invest in technology, in people, in process. You have to transform the whole value chain and supply chain. So, what is your approach when you talk about sustainability?
First of all, for Taiwan, we don't put sustainability as a separate department.
Okay.
So in Taiwan, we think about sustainability and strategy
Okay.
in the same team. So in Taiwan, we have a core team, is essentially our transformation team that brings together strategy and sustainability across our 4 areas in Taiwan. Farm, factory, family, and food.
Oh.
The challenge with sustainability is like all things is time, right? So I think time is a bigger challenge than money, right? Money you can buy a new, solar panel, you can change your biogas, but time is something that is harder to control, right? You need to change the behavior of the farmers. You need to benchmark, your carbon reduction. You need to change technologies to move from carbon removal to avoidance to storage. So there are many different aspects. So I think sustainability for us, I think we're very excited as a company. There's a lot we can do. But the challenge is more about time and just making sure we move as fast as possible. But at the same time, we do things in the right way. I'll give you a very simple example. I think we've made some very clear moves as a company around renewable energy. So right now we've launched about 8 to 9 megawatts of renewable energy across Taiwan. Within about 3 to 4 years, by 2025, we're hoping that at least 50% of Taiwan, will come from renewable sources, mainly through biogas and mainly through our solar panels.
Okay.
So that's one example. So our sustainability program, I think, is something that we are very focused to keep on building. And the challenge is not money, because Taiwan is in a very strong financial position. The challenge is more around time and just pushing it as fast as we can. If we think about a long-term journey towards net zero, whether it's 2030 or it's 2050.
Can you tell us about sustainability strategy? What is your plan? When you think about sustainability, what kind of method do you approach?
In the long term, I see, I think, let's say 10 or 20 years, right? 10 or 20 years, we look at 3 things for Taiwan, right? Because we are an agriculture food company, right? So the 3 big T's, right? So we think about traceability. Right? Where does our food come from?
Okay.
Right? How do we think about our food come from? How do we source more sustainability? How do we increase productivity for the farmers? So being able to trace the value chain from food to shelf, because we are an agriculture company. The second one will be transition, energy transition. So I think very important for sustainability is also the energy part, because we need to go from a carbon source to a low carbon source. So for example, we use more biogas, biomass, solar panel, renewable energy. It's part of the overall energy transition. So there's a second T. And the third one is around transformation. So in terms of new products, because Taiwan, we are totally plant-based. So we don't do any meat, we don't do poultry. So transformation of new products, reducing our carbon, our carbon removal projects, looking at bioplastics as part of the circular economy. As a company, we are working towards, the carbon neutrality by 2030.
2030.
Yeah, and carbon negative by 2050. So we're moving towards the direction. It's just that we need to move at different things, for different types of projects. The good thing about Taiwan is that because we're an agriculture, so as an agriculture company, we are plant-based. So we don't have, we don't deal with animals, we don't deal with poultry. We very much focus on plant-based. So a lot of our efforts and time is really about on the agriculture, on the soil, working with the farmers.
Okay, so one of the questions that come to my mind is how do you stay profitable and sustainable? I think profit and planet sometimes is incompatible.
Yeah.
So how do you stay profitable and also sustainable?
Yeah. That's my job. There's a saying that the CEO needs to do 2 things well. You need to focus on the next 3 months, and you need to plan for the next 10 years.
3 months and 10 years.
Yeah. So if I think about how I spend my day or how I spend my time, 3 days ago, I was with the team one whole day to talk about business performance for next year.
Okay.
So our budget, our revenue, your sales. So you have to focus on tomorrow, right? We cannot just dream about the future and plan for decarbonization. So you have to balance, right? Being focused for tomorrow. So a lot of it I think starts with the CEO style. So 3 days ago, I was with the team for one whole day. We spent a lot of time focusing on next 3 months, next 6 months. So to your question, Khun Ken, how do we balance it?
Yes.
I think there's no magic answer. But to me, the question is, how does the CEO spend his time, his or her time? If the CEO spends all his time on operations and today, you're not going to have, long-term purpose. If you spend all your time, visionary, dreaming, innovation, you're not going to achieve your results. So for me, when I look back, I think how I spend my time is hopefully beneficial to Taiwan to be able to balance. That I spend a lot of time with the team, both to understand like the performance and the business, but also I spend quite a lot of time with the team, creating for the future.
Very good point. Very good point, and I agree with you. So, can you give us some example? How do you spend your day, your week, and your month?
Currently, I would say most of my time is split half, internal, external.
Okay.
So external would be I was in Singapore, meeting with some of our collaborations and partners. I was in Australia, looking at some innovation projects. So there's a lot of external stuff, and the external stuff is important because for me to connect the dots, to understand what's going on in Thailand, what's going on in Singapore, what's going on in Australia. So maybe about 50% external. And then the other part is 50% internal, right? Spending time with the team to review their plans, understanding their plan, interviewing, hiring new talent, working closely with my core leadership team. So I make sure I talk to my core leadership team at least a few times a week. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it's a chat. But Monday as a company is usually our Monday. We have a collaboration alignment meeting among all the top leaders in Taiwan. So post-COVID or post-pandemic, I would say right now spending my time would be about 50-50 between internal and external, and being able to connect the dots, between like what's happening outside Taiwan and what's happening inside Taiwan.
Okay.
For next year, going forward, given that the company is in a very good business position and good momentum, I'll probably spend more time next year on talent.
Talent.
And talent is not just hiring new talent; it's actually growing our internal talent.
Okay.
Because I think in any company, the source of our internal talent is very, very important. So this year I spent a lot of time to talk to them, to engage them. Sometimes formal, informal. So informal, you just chit chat. You talk to them, lunch, dinner, traveling. You just spend time with them. Formal, you book the time.
Okay. So let's go back to sustainability.
Yeah.
Any suggestion, any recommendation for business owners who want to doing sustainability or create a sustainable strategy? It has been around here, but I think some think is too far. When we talk about sustainability, it's too far. It's talk about climate change. It's talk about it's the duty of Prime Minister about COP27 Global Compact. But if we are only SME, so how should we do?
Good question, Khun Ken. I would say the most practical approach would be to start. My reflection and my experience would be to start taking it maybe 2 or 3 years at a time. Sustainability is a challenge and a responsibility for our generation for the whole century, right? Sustainability is now, heart and center everything we do because whatever we're doing right now is living for our children. So if I were to offer like one experience that's hopefully practical to any industry or SME, whether they are in agriculture or fintech or consumer or real estate, would be to look at what you want to do as a company and then break it down into 2 or 3 years. So kind of like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Because you cannot do everything at the same time, right?
Yeah.
It seems very daunting and very challenging that I need to transform. Because the same way there are elements, right? There's the E, the S, and the G. Right? The E is about environment and physical environment. The S is mainly about people and stakeholders. And then the G is about governance. So to do so many things at the same time is very overwhelming
Yeah.
for them, right? The E and the S and the G. And then you got to think about decarbonization and multi-stakeholders. So my reflection and probably some practical approach would be just to break it down to a few years at a time, something a bit more concrete, let's say 2 or 3 years. And then look at things that you as the CEO or the team you feel passionate about. Because it has to start with the basic passion. So depending, different companies have different industries. Some are focused on the E, right? So environment, right? So they focus on water, waste, carbon, all that. Some companies, because maybe, for example, if they're in real estate or they are in F&B or they are in like retail, they may focus more on the S, right? The social part, which is about people and training and all that. And then some companies, if they are like financial services, they may focus on the G. So there's no right or wrong, but if you start something that you're passionate about, then within the company, they'll start to get more momentum, right? People start talking about it more. So it's a continuous journey. I would say break it down into like phases, 2 or 3 years at a time. And then within the E and the S and the G, focus on certain things that are very important. The second thing is like any other transformation is you need your champions. You need the local champions,
Okay,
right?
right.
And these are local champions who believe in sustainability, who drive sustainability, who drive the programs. And once you create the local champions, I think they will create the multiplier effect. Right? It's more like a network, right? So
a change agent.
Like a change agent.
We are living in a very difficult period. The world is changing very fast, and I think this year there are a lot of unprecedented events. War in Ukraine, economic recession, high inflation, climate crisis, and as you mentioned earlier about the clash of the generation, and also the tension between the US and China. So what kind of leader do you think we need right now? What steps we should take to embrace all of these challenges?
Khun Ken, I think the next 2 or 3 years, I think will be very challenging, as you said, because global economy, global politics. For me personally, I think the leadership style, the most important over the next 1 or 2 years, especially also after post-COVID, is to stay very connected to your team and just focus on culture. At the end of the day, there are certain things you cannot control. You cannot control your customers. Well, you can influence your customers, but you cannot control your customers. You cannot control the weather. We can reduce climate, but we cannot reduce floods. And there's no way I can ever control what's going to happen in US and China and EU. What I can control is the company that we want to be. How we role model culture. How do we take care of our next gen? How do we hire? How do we recruit? How do we promote? So what I can control a bit more than the other things, I think, is over the next 2 years is really on culture and staying close. Then I think it's a good thing. So the positive part of huge global crisis and uncertainty, and I think it's a lot of risk for sure, is the role of the leaders, whether you are a school leader, a school principal, or you are a hospital head, or you are a CEO, or you are a nurse, or you're a policeman, or you're a prime minister. It goes back to basics. Just take care of your people, right? Inspire them.
So what does Taiwan mean to you today as a CEO, 7 years in this role? And
Taiwan means to me, that's a very good question. I think Taiwan today can make a huge impact in the world. And I don't mean it by size, right? I don't mean it by, we're not going to be there. We're not going to be the next CP or the next SCG. It's not about size, it's not about scale. I think Taiwan today, we can make a huge impact in the world because we are an agri-food. We have 3,000 associates. One day we have 10,000, 20,000. But I mean huge impact is that we must be able to touch the lives of different people that we work with. So for our stakeholders, from the farmers and the farmer communities, to our factory staff, right? We have a few thousand staff who work in the factories, to our associates, to our customers. So what Taiwan means to me at the most is today, tomorrow, forever, is just to leave that impact on the world. And I think that's very special. I think it's, you said we live in a very challenging world and a very tumultuous world. But the company has this commitment to just leave an impact in the world, to make a difference to as much as we can, to farmers, a few million farmers, to a few thousand associates in the factories, to our customers, then I think, that's something very special.
Yeah. The last question. I think you are very passionate, energetic. So what drives you? What makes you, more energetic? What is your passion?
I'm not directly answering your question, but truly Taiwan is not about me. So I serve Taiwan because I deeply believe Taiwan will outlive me for sure. So I joined as a young 33-year-old CEO. Hopefully when you interview me next time, I'll be hopefully finding a new CEO. But Kun Ken, what motivates me is that it's not about me. And if it's not about me, then it's about giving to everyone else. It's about one day when Taiwan is 100 years old or 200 years old as a company, and we look back to this interview, because by then 100 years from now, I think all your podcasts and your shows will be encrypted on the blockchain.
Hopefully.
It will for sure, because standard is incredible. So what motivates me, Kun Ken, is 100 years from now, when we look back to this interview in 2122 on the blockchain in AI and the moon with Elon Musk, and then when you ask me what motivates me, it's not about me. What motivates me is that it's not about me. What motivates me is that everything I do, everything I try to build, everything that Taiwan stands for is for Taiwan for the longer term. As I mentioned, the impact for the farmers, to the factory associates, to our customers. And if that's the motivation, then it's incredible purpose.
Okay, thank you. Let's meet again in the next 100 years.
Yeah. 2122.
Okay.
In the blockchain.
In the blockchain.
On SpaceX.
Thank you so much.
ขอบคุณมากครับ
ขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณครับ